Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of the Articulate Fly, and we're back with another East Tennessee fishing report with Ellis Ward. Ellis, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm kind of crawling out of recovering from a 15-hour day yesterday after mousing the night before. So it is made easier when the fishing is how it has been. So in general, pretty good. Tired, but good.
Yeah. So are you saying you're not as young as you used to be?
Marv, isn't that true right now? Just, compared to 5 minutes ago?
It is, but I was not trying to be philosophical. I was trying to be a little bit more practical, but that's just me.
Yeah. I wasn't doing this when I was 25, so I can't really compare it to that, but, it's a good burn. I'll say that.
Yeah. Nothing a little Gatorade and Monster can't take care of, right?
Dang.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, and I know you're excited because I've been looking at your weather and I think you have almost what you would consider to be perfect conditions. So you're, in the mid 80s. You've got a bunch of cloudy days and you've got interspersed rainfall. So I would imagine, subject to like squirrely generation on the South Holston, it's about as good as it gets this time of year for you.
Yeah. What you just said, there's a couple different data points of temperature, ambient temperature related to fishing. I wouldn't say is terribly important, but for our comfort is very important. And if the goal for the day is to have fun and get fish in the boat, and if fish aren't getting into the boat, or if we're not getting feedback, learn, try new things, make something happen, whatever the task at hand is. That's hard to do when it's 98 degrees and full sun. So everything becomes easier. Instruction, catching fish, switching up between dry flies, and little casting instruction on a size 16 with a 9-foot versus casting a dry with an 11-foot leader, and bouncing back to streamers. Like all of that, the tax on the individual, on the angler, becomes so much less when you have the intermittent, I think that's what you described it as, intermittent clouds with scattered storms here and there. Like that's as much you can ask for. And then from the fishing perspective, boy, oh boy, we got color in both rivers. The Watauga is continuing its generation in the afternoon, which, I kind of default to that in designing my trips. As daylight shortens, and I tend to push a little more towards mousing, but really try to milk that afternoon release. And the South Holstons, a little more fluctuating in their releases, but looks like for at least the next few days, and I'm guessing based on rainfall, a week or more, we're getting some 6, 7, 8, 10-hour releases from the South Holston. And again, the tributaries, I was just looking at the Doe, the big tributary. And for context, when the Doe is high, like really, really pushy in the summer, let's call that like 200 CFS. The Watauga, the dam, the river itself, the Watauga tailwater, is releasing 240 CFS. So one of the reasons I like the Watauga so much is it doesn't really feel like it's not you're on the middle, the lower. You wouldn't look around and say this is a tail race. So all of these little things, the contributions from the freestones, from the little tributaries, these little ag creeks just getting hit with the heavens opening up for 15 minutes here and there, and pushing out some color. You see it in the fish. And as much as I love rowing a boat and hanging out with people, educating, doing what I'm doing now, just vomiting the contents of my brain out at others, I really like catching fish. I really like watching people, helping people catch big brown trout. And yeah, these are the conditions for that. So it's been, and you know, I'm gonna promote and encourage the streamer angler as much as possible. But that was kind of the task at hand. Yesterday, we had to leave. We had to stop fishing risers, and we fed a monster, a size 20. It just didn't. The hook set was a little. I think we might have had the case of the yips. But you know, then we had to like we could have focused on that for a couple hours. So it's been a lot of fun, and I'm pumped to fish with you next week.
Yeah, I'm excited too, and I'm going to bring, as I like to say, the first son thing number one. But the other thing too to remind people is the seasonal forage is getting about as big as it's getting big now. So like all the like annual minnows and bait fish, we're heading into August, and that's just ringing the dinner bell because there's a lot of that stuff in the water.
Yeah, you get different. I guess I'll use the word forage, but there's, the sucker spawn, for example, in March. Well, guess what's starting to, there's a sucker minnow hatch in like May, where you start looking around. I started looking around the boat ramp. At this one ramp, put my headlamp on and kind of wade in and check some zones, specifically some big crawfish and some sculpin that make me say, oh yeah, that makes sense. And that night I started seeing these little, I couldn't really figure out what they were until I started seeing more and put together that, oh yeah, those are little suckers that were eggs, 6 weeks ago. So all of that stuff is continuing to grow. I mean, the browns are also, they know that daylight's going down. It's starting to get dark at 8:30, and they have an hour less than they did just a few weeks ago. So I can't really say if it's one thing or another. You start to get clarity. You start to get more water. We landed the biggest client caught brown trout for me yesterday, in low water off of a weed bed. And it's certainly clarity on that one. We're fishing very, very muddy water. And I don't know whether or not the conditions override some of these external factors. It is tough to say. I think it's important to look at what your creek's doing, what your river's doing, what the tailwaters are doing, and experiment. But something else that's happening here is, Marv, as what you were saying with the critters getting bigger. You also have the tiny critters, the bugs. You start popping rocks over right now, you're looking at deserts. And a month and a half ago, relative dead. A month and a half ago, 2 months ago, you're popping the same rock over and it's packed. It's a full house. And so the food source is consistent, and as insulated as these tailwaters can feel, the food sources, what's available, changes dramatically. And taking yesterday as an example, and for anyone saying, fish don't eat streamer, and there was a massive brown trout chilling, hanging on a weed bed, and very casually rising up and eating size 20s. They eat everything, and figuring out what looks like the food that they're eating. That's the task at hand most days.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff. Gets me excited for next week. And got a question for you. I got a question for you from Brenner. He wanted to get your thoughts on what new anglers can do to be good clients when they get in the boat.
Yeah. So this one's interesting. I have not been a consumer of guiding outside of fishing with Tommy a couple times and some of the saltwater fishing that I've done, and meeting some great guys that I guide the way that I have been guided that I really enjoy, which is direct communication and being very open. So what do you want to do? Here, my job most days, I would say, is to maximize the fun that we're going to have. For some people, that's catching fish. For some people, it's going out and ripping streamers. It doesn't matter. We're not going to stop and go over dry fly fishing. And I think that person would love to understand how to cast a 5-wood effectively and land some nice fish on dry fly. But right in that moment, there's some of it's spoken, some of it's unspoken, where what's most fun right then for the person in the front seat. If I think that that's catching fish, then we're going to stop and fish dry flies. If the most fun thing is to continue casting streamers, we're going to continue casting streamers. So I think for a new angler, from that perspective, and this is going to change dramatically, I think, depending on the guide you choose. There's different flavors of guides, and there are a lot of guides who do the same thing every day. I'm thinking of myself, Matt, some of these other guys that I've been out with, where it's like I have a conversation with every angler before we go out. Every single person. It doesn't matter if I'm running 12 trips in 12 days. I know the person that I'm fishing at least a little bit on a personal level the day before, if not weeks or a month before, so that I understand what that dynamic looks like, what that fun dynamic looks like for them. And so to be a good client in that sense is be honest. If you want to learn, because I've had that, I get this plenty, and it's not going to surprise anyone. I just want to learn how to X. I just want to learn this and that. I don't care, catching fish is a bonus, whatever. If that's not the case, if you want to go, because that's very different. I can teach, and honestly, people can learn far more effectively when the opportunity to catch fish is not there. When the opportunity to catch fish is there, you don't listen to me. I don't care who you are. It's been 100% of people with me. When the opportunity to catch fish is there and you're getting the fly out there and maybe everything's not going well and it's only happening 50% of the time, you're going to keep doing some of these things and making mistakes. And I pick up on that. And so I'm going to kind of quiet down and let you do your thing, and hopefully we catch some fish. If you want to catch some fish, say that. And you're going on a guided trip and you're paying good money for it. So be honest. And I would say the good guys, I've had people on my boat that, I don't want to say are nervous, but they're very clear that they're not good anglers, as though I have these expectations of I'm not even sure what, of anything than zero. My expectations I'm lucky to have people on my boat. Every single person. I've a couple weeks ago, I was telling one of my regulars that it feels like all of these are my first trip, where I truly do feel fortunate to have people on my boat. And so I've spent so much time doing all these different things and fishing gear and fishing 4 and 5 weights and fishing 7s and 8s and fishing smallies and muskie and, low, high, daytime, dark, so that we can have a conversation and say, hey, here's the menu. And here's a couple of these programs that we can choose. in absence of an opinion from you, but the client should provide input and say, here's what I want to do, and let's be as clear as possible on expectations from both sides, because I think that there's a, don't piss your guide off mentality, which is bizarre, because it's like, at the end of the day, I'm a business, and I am a customer focused business, and so certainly do things to make the trip go smoother, and there are plenty of things that happen throughout the day, but open communication and being honest. If you want to catch fish, tell your guide you want to catch some fish. If you want to avoid boats, if you want to do X, Y, and Z, tell them. And if you're not getting good feels from whoever you're talking to, call someone else.
It's good life advice, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And, folks, we love questions on the Articulate Fly. You can email them to us or DM us on social media, whatever's easiest for you. And if we use your question, I will send you some Articulate Fly swag, and we will enter you in a drawing for some cool stuff from Ellis at the end of the season. And, Ellis, like we always do, you want to let folks, know where they can find you and book you. And I'll also remind people that we've got a great community that we host on Patreon with some opportunities to participate in the community and get discounts on bucktails. And there'll be more this year than last year, or to get a $100 off guide credit with Ellis. So I'll stop talking now, Ellis, and let you cue everybody up and tell them where to find you and all that kind of good stuff.
Sure. So you can follow me on Instagram at Ellis Ward Guides. My website is elliswardfries.com. Text, call, ask questions, say what's up at my cell phone, 513-543-0019.
Well, there you go, folks. As I always say, you owe it yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Ellis.
Appreciate it, Marv.